So top 25, we won't even talk about where you changed, where you got guys ranked, but just looking at the general census with Tennessee, Duke, Virginia, Gonzaga, and Michigan. But I don't want to talk to you about the rankings. Out of those teams I named, which one of those teams will be #1 seed in the tournament?
I think definitely Duke, and right now Tennessee. I think those two are definitely #1 seed.
You know something that can change?
Oh, man, we still got 6 weeks to play.
but I did say right now. I did say right now.
Yeah. Well, right now, if they picking tomorrow, personally, I would pick those two, and then I would go a little bit under the table. The third would be Michigan, who's on your list, or Michigan State, depending on how that plays out by the end of the year. I think right now, probably just a little bit of a tick lean towards Michigan over Michigan State, but I'm not saying that'll be the case at the end. And personally, I think the other team that's the #1 seed, unless they lose again, which I doubt, is Nevada. I think, people, around the country, they're still going to be drinking that power conference Kool-Aid, but Nevada is a team to watch. And Nevada is a #1 seed in my book.
Yeah, you've talked to me about them since the start of the season, but I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, and I'm going with Gonzaga as far as a #1 seed instead of Nevada. But I think as the season goes on and the teams that they played, I think they've had a better schedule than Nevada. I think Gonzaga is going to be that #1 seed.
I'll bow to you a little bit on that.
Wow, that's different.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
That's rare.
The other thing, chewing on what you just said, if you're looking at it that way, which of those teams, including the 5 you mentioned, which of those teams do you think, and I'm thinking Virginia 2018, which of those teams do you think is most vulnerable as a top seed?
Well, we know everything depends on the matchups and who you would play, what 1 and what 16 would play. But as far as being vulnerable,
I'm not saying they lose in the first round, but lose, Sweet 16 or less.
I'm thinking maybe, I don't know why I want to lean with Michigan, thinking that they would slip. Probably in around 16.
I think, and it showed last year, it was an outlier for sure, but it also showed last year with Virginia, any team that can score.
You say Virginia lose again?
No,
really?
I'm not saying they'll necessarily lose again. I'm saying they're the most vulnerable to lose because, their style of play is 50s and 60s. You get on a neutral floor and somebody gets a hot hand. Somebody like last year, they had a kid that got hurt a little bit. Well, a little bit means a lot.
It does. It does.
And then all of a sudden, you become a little bit less than what you have been for the course of the season, and you become just what we're talking about. You become vulnerable. So I think a team like Virginia is vulnerable. I think Michigan may be a little bit more vulnerable than what I would normally want, but I don't think they're that vulnerable. Michigan's pretty good. Michigan's got a lot of pieces. A lot of pieces.
Well, we'll definitely see. We have a few more weeks to debate this.
I'll tell you something else, not to cut you off. I think Duke is a little more vulnerable.
Duke? What?
Because of their numbers.
And because of their youth?
But not so much of their youth. They've had guys nicked and hurt all season, and their numbers, they only get down to 7 or 8. That becomes an issue late in the season. So, Duke is a team. Their quality is top shelf. Don't get me wrong.
Exactly.
But I think Trey Jones, I believe it is, the guard. He just came back, but he's not 100%. And there's a couple other guys that have been nicked and dinged here. They're not 100%. And like I say, there's still 6 weeks to play. So, yeah.
So we'll see.
All right.